I can show you the difference. Like, look at this. Shitty Mac camera versus this. Feel like a star. You know? Cool. Let's do this, man.
Firstly, I'm really excited because I never thought if you were like gonna reply me because I don't know. I'm
Oh
used to like
no.
just reaching out to people and then I mean a lot of time it's like a numbers game where a lot of people don't reply you, but it's like amazing when someone like, you know, like replies you. So it's like, oh great.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's alright. I reply to everyone who DMs me. It's just my way of like, maintaining that community, that the people who like my work, I appreciate them sticking around, so I always try to respond. Yeah.
Like how did it all start? Like how did you decide to become a comedian and make it as your full-time career? I'm sure a lot of people ask you this.
I started doing comedy in university. I went to university in America. I'm from Malaysia originally, and I went to university in Evanston, Illinois, which is near Chicago. Started doing comedy there. Decided, oh, it's nice. Stand up is fun. And I just kept doing it. Moved to the UK in 2015, and I always had, after graduating university, I always had a full-time day job. And then after moving to the UK, I kept doing comedy at nights, on weekends, and I started getting better at it. And then full-time day job became part-time, and as of September last year, September 2019, I went full-time comedy because people at work were getting mad at me for taking too many days off. So I decided that, yeah, let's just quit and devote my full time into this. And it's been great because the more time you devote to something creative, the more ideas you come up with, and the more you can work on your craft, the more you can build your audience. So I'm really enjoying this life, to be honest.
No, I think it's great because I don't think not everyone is able to just, quit their day jobs and, devote themselves into this created like the work.
Yeah, it's a calculated risk. You gotta be doing the thing you want to do already. Don't just quit and then start comedy. Always be doing it on the side and then realize, oh, okay, I can see a future where this can work. So it's a very calculated risk on my part.
No, for sure. I mean, you mentioned that you studied in America. So what made you come to the UK?
I was seeing a woman from Europe at the time. We both studied in America, and we're not together anymore. But I just moved here with her because yeah, it was just the easiest way to live together. We both couldn't get a visa to stay in America, so that here I am. And I like it here now. I think I prefer the UK to America now. I'm getting used to this place, and yeah, it's good. My career is going all right. I'm happy with the things I'm making online. Yeah, it's nice. I feel like Asian representation here, East Asian and Southeast Asian especially, is not as developed as it is in America just yet. But I feel like that's why it's cool to be able to, start something.
No, I totally agree. Because even talking to a lot of friends, they always say that in America, that Asian American identity is so strong, and there's so many communities or platforms out there to support those people. Whereas, but in London or UK, there's not a lot out there, and even if there are, you don't really see it in mainstream media. It's usually like niche groups, as you said.
Yeah, it's some guy in a Chinese takeaway with a strong accent. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was just so niche, and we're just almost like invisible, and nobody cares about us. Oh, almost like that. Not until like COVID happened and suddenly we're in the limelight of everything in a negative way. But yeah, it's great to always see people try to support our community and try to build something from that. So about your career as a comedian, is there like a specific moment that, I guess, like a pivotal moment that made you feel like, okay, you know what? I'm really good at this and I want to, do this full time. Obviously, you said that, you decide to give up your day job because you want to focus on this, but is there a pivotal moment?
It's not one moment. Hopefully, it's more than just one moment. If you base any decision off that one moment, that's a terrible thing to do. It's like I do a lot of gigs and most of them go well. So most of those gigs that go well are moments like that. I just tell myself, oh, I can make this work. That went really well. And then that happens a lot. And after a while, you're like, oh, I'm pretty consistent at doing well. That means I'm pretty consistent. That means I can make consistent money. I can make a consistent income. Let's do this. So it's not one moment. It's just a series of moments over many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's not one moment. That'll be terrible. Like, oh yeah, my teacher told me when I was 6 that I was really funny. That's why I started doing stand-up. That's a terrible way to start doing stand-up, you know?
No, but I guess like sometimes some people like there's one big event that happened and they're like, you know what? This is it. Like I'm gonna do this full time. But obviously you said that there's different moments in your like
Yeah.
career. How about any really bad experience that haunted you for life?
Uh, Not for life, but you know, I'm pretty thick-skinned, and I think you need to have really thick skin to do stand-up because bad gigs you're gonna have a lot of bad gigs. And the worst gig I've ever had was at a place called Butlins. You know Butlins?
No.
It's a British seaside resort. It's like in the joke I describe Butlins as, you know, when you walk past a Weatherspoons at 2 in the afternoon, imagine if all those people went to a resort.
Oh.
That's a Butlins, just alcoholics in
Oh
sandals.
God.
So it was an afternoon show. All of them were drunk already, and they weren't super open to new things. So, well, I don't want to say they're racist because I don't know, but like it's been reported that that gig, specifically that gig, a lot of non-white male comics don't do well there. So I have a lot of white female comic friends who tell me, yeah, died at Butlins. So they are not open to anything unusual or out of the norm. So I went up. The guy before me did well, you know, white British comic, Northern, did well. I went up and just died my ass off, you know, and bombed. 5 minutes into it, people are booing. I was supposed to do 20 minutes. I lasted 8 minutes on stage, and security had to come escort me away because there are people trying to climb on stage, trying to throw things at me.
Gosh. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So, yeah, that was pretty bad. But, you know, afterwards, it stings for a little bit. For like maybe the rest of the day, it stings a little bit. But then you realize, it's just one gig, isn't it? And then you just move on, and then the next gig you do, it's good again. And yeah, you just recover, bounce back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even the sound of that, that's quite, I guess for a normal person, that's quite scary. But I mean, I guess you said you require really thick skin and, you know, you just constantly have to be okay with criticism and, you know, messing up. And
Yeah, you develop that thick skin after a while.
how do you get inspiration in general for all your, you know, shows? Because I do see, you know, when you go to comedy shows, you
Uh-huh.
see these like really cool comedians, and then sometimes they do reuse their pun lines or
Material.
jokes and
Yeah.
material. Sometimes too many times. Because I think one comedian I saw, I went on YouTube because he was really funny, so I went on YouTube trying to find more clips of him, and then turns out all the clips are of the same joke but different locations. So it was kind of like a bummer. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
you don't want to put up all of the same jokes on YouTube. You want to have a variety of stuff. And yeah, I'm constantly writing new stuff. If you see me at a show, at a club, I probably, you know, will have some stuff you've heard and some stuff that are new. Assuming you don't see me every week. I'm assuming you see me at most like 2-3 times a year. That's already a lot. Once a year is nice, you know. Once a year, then you can guarantee you'll have a lot of new stuff, even though there are some old favorites. There's some jokes that I do for more than a year because sometimes jokes take longer to evolve and develop. So if you see me once a year, twice a year, 1 to 3 times a year max, then you're guaranteed to have a turnover of material. And I get my inspiration from just life in general. Anything that tickles me, or anything that bugs me, and then I try to think about why is it bugging me, and I realize, oh, I see something funny, and I try to write something about that.
I mean, I've seen quite a few clips on your Instagram. Are most of your jokes around like, you know, your own culture and heritage? Because there are a few ones that are quite funny about like, you know, being Asian and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
is that the center of most of your jokes?
I'll say online, I lean into the Asian thing more, only because I can't really do them at most comedy clubs. People just won't get it. You know, jokes about rice cookers or a knockoff Bluetooth device that has a Chinese accent, you know? So I like doing those on my social media. I would say the split is like 80-20 or 70. Yeah, most of them are Asian stuff, but there are a few videos that are just like funny shit, you know? But if you see me at a live scenario, then it skews less Asian because I have to make it more accessible. But that's not to say if I'm doing a show for my own people, like fans of me who are, majority Asian, then yeah, I skew up the Asianness a little bit.
Would you say that most of when you go to comedy shows and stuff like that, most of your audience are Asian, or it's actually a good mix, or
It depends. If it's my own tour show, like my headlining show, fans coming out to support, then yeah, 80% Asian. But if I'm doing just a club gig, random comedy club in anywhere in the UK, then it's yeah, majority white. Maybe like 1 or 2 Asian people total in the crowd. So yeah, as a comic, you have to learn how to play different rooms.
Mhm.
The trick is to balance that with having a unique voice and having a unique selling point, because anybody can do like jokes about, grocery shopping and jokes about, cats versus dogs, that kind of jokes. But you need a specific life experience to talk about specific Asian things. Say from my angle, it's like Asian, growing up Asian.
Yeah. Do you ever go through a time where, you've done a lot of shows, you've done a lot of, created a lot of content online, and you've come to a point where you're kind of having like a kind of burnout?
Not really. By the way, my camera ran off battery, so back to my
Okay,
laptop
no
camera.
worries.
Burnout, no, I think every week creatively is different every week. Some weeks I'm very productive creatively, so I come up with a lot of new ideas. Some weeks less so. And even during the drier weeks creatively, I don't get too worried because there's always stuff to be done. Especially if you work content online. If say this week I have 0 new ideas, that's okay. I have all ideas I can refresh and try to make better, try to deliver it in a different way, or I can repurpose stuff. So take a video I posted on YouTube and post it onto Instagram and TikTok. So there are different ways of doing things. Like creatively, I think that's how you avoid burnout, right? To don't stress out if you have no new ideas. It's okay. We're only human beings, and creativity is an elusive thing sometimes. You don't really know how it works. It's not like a formula you can put in and creativity comes out. So I take a lot of breaks too. I don't work that hard. As a comic, like compared to you have a day job, right? So I assume you woke up at what, 8, 7:30?
8.
8, okay. You woke up at 8 and then you worked 9 to 5 and you have to do this podcast. So you have been working since 9. Compare it to me. I woke up at 8 too, but then I went to the park to exercise and I came back around 10:30. So I didn't exercise for 2 hours. I was just in my bed on my phone scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, and then I slowly walked to the park, worked out, slowly walked back, showered, and I started my work today at like noon, 11:30 noon. So I don't work that hard. And I have a PS4. I don't even know why I got a PS4. It's like I don't even work that hard already. And now I have another thing that helps me unwind, you know? So that's how I avoid burnout. I guess I just don't work that hard.
Would you say like when you do stand-up comedy, when you do shows, you have a different personality, or would you say on camera and off camera you're the same person?
I would say it's an amped up version of myself. Even now, I'm still the same person, maybe a little bit more performative because, I'm on camera, we're recording, and you want this to be somewhat entertaining to the listener, right?
Yeah.
So even on my podcast, somebody described me on the podcast saying I have a very entertaining ego, which I'm quite like, but it's funny. I do it to entertain. And yes, that is me, just a bit amped up. I'm not as egoistic in real life. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. I talk about Asian things a lot, right, as we discussed. So I like my culture. I like to tell people about my culture. And I think for too long, we've been ridiculed in the Western world. I don't know how you guys handle this. People make fun of you. In Asia, we're all Asian. It's normal. We all have the same habits. And coming over here, growing up Asian here is a lot tougher than growing up Asian in Asia.
Yeah. I guess it's like different kinds of challenges, right? Because like in Asia, I actually like grew up in like Hong Kong, and it wasn't until like when I was 13 that I came over, so I kind of experienced both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And even like growing up in Hong Kong, like it's a different kind of challenge. It's like so competitive. Like everything is about scores, and I used to go to this school where even the moms of my classmates are aggressively like asking you like, oh, how did you do, oh, where do you go for that tutoring? And it's like really stressful because like you see all these like moms surrounding like a child who's like tiny, like asking all these questions and being super like like on to you all the time. So There's like a different kind of stress, I guess.
True, man, we are pretty competitive back in Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that's good, you know? People here are too relaxed. Kids are too relaxed here. They don't study enough. Just kidding. I don't know. I don't know what's the best way to do this thing, but probably there's a balance between the cultures.
How do you see yourself, 5, 10 years from now? Like, how do you want to grow, and what's your, idea of success, I guess?
I'm gonna keep building my fan base, and I build a fan base online so I can sell tickets for my live show, so I can keep touring. So, in 5 to 10 years' time, if I'm doing the correct things, I would be touring and performing in bigger venues, in more locations around the world. Yeah, so essentially what I do now, but at a bigger scale.
Or maybe even have like a Netflix show or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. But it's also tricky to have goals that are not fully in your control, you know? So if Netflix happens, great. But so many things have to happen. You got to know people, industry have to take attention to you. But I know things that are in my control is like, making good videos that are entertaining to watch,
Yeah.
writing new jokes, writing better jokes. So I try to and put out podcasts. Those are the things I can control, and I try to do them at the best I can.
Obviously, we mentioned how, like, with the whole COVID situation, it's hard to find work because a lot of live shows has been canceled and things like that. Um, would you say that being like a full-time stand-up comedian is a difficult job in the way of, like, earning money? Because I guess a lot of people wonder, would you call yourself like a freelancer, type thing?
I would call myself self-employed or freelance, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, I think we are under that category. And yes, majority of my income before COVID was live work. So that's all gone for the time being. So I think I'm lucky to be one of those comics who can pivot to the online world easily because I already had the infrastructure and the foundation ready to go. I had the, small but decent sized fan base online, and I had the podcast already going since last October. So to me, it's a degree of pivoting instead of recreating something from the ground up. A lot of comics whose sole focus is live work, now they're like, oh shit, what do I do? Everything's gone. Do I start a podcast? Do I start a YouTube channel? Do I live stream? There's so many options now. It just suddenly becomes so competitive because everybody's doing it. Whereas for me, it's just, okay, all my live work is gone. Thank God I have a Patreon. Let's start plugging that. If you don't know, Patreon is just a way of like your fans supporting you directly financially, right? So I have that. I already had a few patrons, and now we just amped it up saying, hey, we want to, my co-host Evelyn and I, we are out of work, so we're going to focus more on the podcast, make 2 episodes a week instead of 1. And so we hope that you would support us through our Patreon because it's our only source of income. And a lot of people came out to support us. So I'm super, super grateful. I'm also very, very lucky that I decided to start doing this online stuff last year in order to build a presence and build a profile for myself. So I'm so lucky I started doing this last year. If I could, I'll start doing it even earlier. But, doing it last year was nice. People came along for the ride. And I'm doing okay financially, even now.
Yeah. That's good to hear because it is quite hard as a freelancer, to navigate these like difficult times. And let's say someone like younger, I guess, come up to you and say, they're interested in being like a stand-up comedian as well. Like, what would your advice be for them?
If you want to be a stand-up, just go perform and get as good as you can and perform as much as you can, write as much as you can. And then there comes a certain point where you want to take a career to the next level. You have to start figuring out how to build a profile, how to be, how to work social media. But as a starting point, if stand-up is what you really want to do, then just focus on stand-up for the first few years. Worry about the online presence later.
And like for shows that you do, like, live shows, do you have to like network to get those shows or like, apply for some sort of,
For club shows, it's like word gets around, people see you, he's funny, and then other comics, sometimes they run their own shows, they'll book you. And clubs wise, if you're new to a club, you email them saying, hey, I'm a comedian, I'd like to perform at your club sometime, here are my credits, here's what I've been on, here's all the clubs I work with. And then sometimes they would put you on straight away for a paid spot if you have been around the block and been out to other comedy clubs. But most of the time they'll ask you to come do what we call an open spot, which is a 10-minute spot that's usually unpaid. And then they see how you do. And if you do well, they'll get you back next time for a paid spot. But it's a long process. So the process, because there's so many comedians now, the time between doing an open spot and a paid spot can be up to a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's tough to break into it now. If you want to do it full time, it's tougher now than it used to be.
Yeah.
So you just have to have patience, and use that year to really hone your material.
And would you say like being a stand-up comedian is better compared to when you were a stand-up comedian doing stand-up comedy in America?
I can't really answer that because in America I was doing it quite casually.
Okay.
I was still really shit back then. I was just starting out, so I was doing it very casually as well, maybe once or twice a week. But I was only here where I started taking it more seriously, going up to like, when I had a full-time job, I was still performing 3-4 nights a week. Now before COVID, it's 5 nights a week I'm performing. And that's not even a lot compared to a lot of other comics. They gig every night, which is that's crazy people. I need my time off. I need comedy's at night, right? And I like eating good food with friends, so sometimes I give up comedy for hot pot. And there's no shame in that. Hot pot is
Yeah, for
great.
sure. No, hotpot is great. I remember a lot of my like colleagues at work who are not Asian, when I mentioned like, oh, let's go for hotpot, they're all like they feel like it's some kind of alien type of food that, it's a bit, to them it's a bit disgusting. But when I truly like I invited them to my to my flat, and we bought food together and like had hotpot, they're like, oh my gosh, Steph, like this is so good, like let's do this more more often, it's amazing. And I'm like, sometimes people just have to go out there and try things, and
Yeah.
not assume that we all eat weird things, they're actually really good.
You have hot pot at your home?
No, we actually use a pan and then I put it on an electric stove.
Oh, it's not the same, man. This is a big debate. A lot of my friends tell me hot pot's better at home, but I'm like, no, because you go to a proper hot pot place like Happy Lamb in Holborn. Have you been?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, like they serve you meat that's so thinly sliced. You cook it for 7 seconds. How can you slice meat that thin and be that fresh like lamb? Oh my god, I'm hungry now. Talking about this. I crave hot pot in COVID. I would break the rules for hot pot. Let's put it on the record. I would break the law for hot pot. If you started a hot pot restaurant, I would break all the social distancing rules. I'll wear a face mask and try to protect myself. But I will break the rules for hot pot. I crave it so much.
Now, I was gonna say like thinking of way to like do social distancing while doing hot pot, and I think a while back now, I think the store is closed. There was a hot pot kind of store, but it's more like individual hot pot. So it was in Chinatown, and it was called, I think, Shuang Shuang.
Shuang Shuang. Oh, Shuang Shuang. I know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
place. It's
yeah,
on that big street, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, Shaftesbury Avenue. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never been there, but that could work. But I don't mind, man. I would get the coronavirus for hot pot. Let's put it this way. Risk. I'm a calculated risk kind of guy, right? And I'm young. I'm healthy. My mortality rate from COVID will be quite low. So it's worth it for some sliced pork. Man, Boris, open the UK back up. I need my hot pot.
Oh, like I mean, on a real note, I'm still kind of like skeptical about the whole situation. I feel like it's a bit scary. I don't think UK is that prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And like talking to my friends who work in healthcare, they're like, not a good idea to open up. Because it's still quite bad. But yeah, I mean, I do wish it gets
Yeah.
better soon. Because I mean, I do like good food, and cooking at home every day, you get to a point where you just can't eat your own food anymore. You're like
Yeah,
done with it.
it sucks. I'm not a good cook. It gets me by, but I want to have someone else cook for me. Yeah, I just crave Asian food a lot, man. And it's hard to make Asian food at home because you have to get the spices, and then it usually smells really strong. So I don't want to make that much Asian food because it stinks up the whole flat. I live in a small studio flat, it's just me. And I don't want to annoy my neighbors. Sometimes they walk past the hallway and then my house smells like shrimp paste or fish sauce. Yeah, oh my god. Have you like cooked anything with fish sauce? And then if you have guests coming over, not that I have guests coming over now, but if you have guests coming over, you can still smell it 2 days later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I want to eat somewhere. Or Korean barbecue. Give me Korean barbecue. I'm sure, yes, we use the same chopsticks to pick up the meat. Yes, but that heated plate surely must kill the virus, right? I'm not a scientist.
That's
But
what like like Asian parents do when like you use the wrong chopsticks to like pick things up from the hot pot. You just put it back in, just have a quick rinse because apparently hot water will kill all the bacteria. So
yeah, I will go Asian parent superstition if you can open up a Korean barbecue place. Oh, bulgogi and soju. Oh,
oh, that's good.
yeah. I miss it, man. Peach soju. Oh. All right, you're making me hungry now, Steph.
No, like peach soju is so good. It's literally like drinking juice with
Yeah.
alcohol. Like food really does like connect people. Like even if you have nothing else in common, if you like the same types of food, you can talk about it all day.
Well, yeah, some British people don't really care about food though.
Okay, yeah.
They just don't really seek out food. They don't get excited for food. Sometimes I did a gig in I think Brussels. Yeah, I did a gig in Brussels, and the theater was next to a tapas place, and the tapas place had a deal with the theater, so comics eat for free, and it's like a good, well-reviewed tapas place. And the food was great, and it was pretty pricey too. And I was so excited. I was just before the gig, I was just taking all the tapas. And my comic friend, who's like white British, he just was just eating with me, but he wasn't excited for the food. He was just talking to me, and I just wanted to tell him, just shut up and let me eat. I don't want to talk to you right now. I have like olives and shrimp and the little pate on toast,
Oh
on the
wow,
crispy bread.
yeah.
Oh my god. Mm.
I'm actually getting really hungry now.
Yeah, me too. Pate on anything, man. I feel so posh. It's quite cheap from Tesco.
Oh,
Yeah, I bought like salmon pate. It's like £3 for a tub. It's really cheap. You buy that from a tapas store, it's like 2 spoonfuls for like £9. You know?
like
So
restaurants just mark it up. And I mean, I would love to go to Tesco because I really like Tesco, but there's none near where I live. So
ugh. Are you a Waitrose gal? I can tell. You're probably a Waitrose gal. Not Aldi, right?
I actually
No?
buy from Aldi. It depends. I'm more like that Asian mom thing where you try to see where's like which place has the cheapest things.
You do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I have those like those cards where you can collect points and stuff. I mean, yeah, why not?
My parents do that too, but now I value my time now over saving a few pennies. You know? I have a lot of I'm very Asian, but I also have a lot of things that I try to not be like my parents, decorating the house. I like my flat to look nice, as you can tell from my backdrop. Have you seen a typical Asian parent's house? My God, it looks like shit. They're all hoarders. My parents are all hoarders.
That's so true, actually.
Yeah, and your flat looks nice. You probably get everything from Muji, right?
I mean, actually, I only have one thing from Muji.
Oh, okay. But it looks nice. It's very minimal and clean and sleek. So your parents' house probably don't look like this.
Nah, I think it's my parents' house have a lot of paper, like just paperwork from like office. When my dad moved from one office to the other, he literally treated my brother's room as a storage room of folders and files and everything, and he never took them away. So till now, it's still papers.
Just tell her to throw it away. Asian parents don't throw anything away. They're always like, oh, it might come in handy one day. We grew up poor. I'm like, yes, you grew up poor, but how does hogging the paper make you less poor, mom?
Oh, it's crazy. But talking about parents, like when you first told them that you want to, become a full-time stand-up comedian, like were they supportive of you?
Yeah, they still think it's a hobby.
Oh,
They're like, yeah, stand up, it's okay, it's very good, but do it as a hobby, do it at night. Then at the day, you can still go out and earn money. But I just stopped explaining it to them. I just said, yeah, sure, mom, I think about it. I just kind of brushed it off. They don't understand, They came from my parents grew up pretty poor, and they weren't white collar professionals either. So they just really wanted me to work in a nice office, have a good job, stable income, start a family, drive a nice car, all the typical Asian parent stuff. But I always feel I'm destined for more. Or I'm just lazy. So I'm like, okay, that's it. All good, man. Let me just enjoy my life. But I think I'm happier now than I'm definitely am happier now than when I was just working a job I didn't like just so I could pay the bills and do stand up at night.
yeah.
So I keep telling them that, but they won't listen. They just think I'm like struggling and broke and hungry all the time, and really suffering. But I'm like, no, man, I'm pretty happy here. So just chill. And yeah, they don't really understand it, but it's okay. You don't need your parents to understand everything, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And do you see yourself like ever going back to Malaysia to pursue this career or not really?
I'll just go back and perform, but I probably wouldn't live there long term. Because I think comedy in Malaysia is still, is heavily under development. It's still developing, and a lot of the humor there gets quite niche. We say British humor, American humor. Yes, there are differences, but for the most part, a British comic, a British mainstream comic, would still translate in the US, right? Unless you're just super weird, but a typical British comic will still translate. But a typical Malaysian comic, a lot of the stuff won't work in the Western world. It's just too regional and too in Asia. Humor is just very specific to your culture. Even like Malay jokes that work in Malaysia might not even work in the Philippines or Indonesia or Vietnam. That's how specific we get with our jokes. Whereas in the Western world, the culture is a lot more homogenized. We all got the same brands. Everybody knows about what's a Western brand, like an iPhone. But in Asia, the pop culture, the common consciousness is so fractured that it's hard to find jokes that work universally across Asia.
I haven't really heard of anyone from like going to a comedy show in, I mean, for example, Hong Kong. I've never heard of that before. It was only when I was in UK that it became such a big thing, and I would start going to all these shows because I know of them.
Yeah, it's more developed here. It's more of a pastime here, right? People going to a comedy club is a thing you can do on dates. Can you imagine going on Tinder Malaysia and then you're like, oh, let's go to a comedy club? Yeah, she's ghosting you for sure. That's not happening. So yeah, hopefully when all this blows over, hopefully you can come to my show, man. I was planning to, I don't know if this is going to happen, but I was planning to record a full show, film it later this year. I actually have the date booked in still in November, but who knows what's going to happen by then, right? And who knows, even if things are reopened, would people have the appetite or the courage to be in a big theater with other people? So, but hopefully you can come see me live one day.
Oh, for sure. Like I
Yeah,
would
bring
love
your
to.
boyfriend and then don't talk to him. And yeah,
No, I'll bring everybody because like, even
Yes,
my sister loves like comedy shows, so it'll be great.
yes, if they like, bring your white friends too. I'm very accessible, by the way. They might not get 10% of the stuff,
Yeah.
right? But they'll get 90%. But Asian people will get all of it.
No, that's great. Before we end, is there something specific that you really want to talk about today that you feel like, you need to bring to light something, an issue or.
I think we just need to support each other more. The reason I think East Asian stuff isn't very visible right now, but we're starting. We're making noise now. You have a podcast. I have a podcast. Go check it out, by the way. Plug, plug, plug. It's called Rise to Meet You. It's a comedy podcast about Asian culture. So I think we are making waves. We're starting to be more visible. And the more we support each other, the more visible we become. And then hopefully we'll break into the mainstream soon. Like we'll have a whole TV show. It's just Asians. Like in America, they're fresh off the boat. Maybe soon, in the next year, maybe you'll have a show like that, but a British-born Chinese show, right?
Yeah.
And if you do, please cast me in one of your parts. I'll play a janitor. I don't give a shit. But hopefully you have a show like that. Just keep supporting each other, and then support. I try to support other Asian creatives as well. I support, my friend Shu. She's a vlogger.
Deja Shu, right?
Deja Shu. Yeah. You should get her on the podcast. She's great. And then anyone who makes anything online creatively, I try to support them, especially if they're Asian. Yeah, let's try to support each other.
No, I really like what you said about supporting each other because I feel that like I can't speak up for every other Asian, but growing up, especially in in East Asia, the idea of supporting each other isn't that people don't really support each other. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, they're all competitive, trying to get ahead of you.
Exactly. So if you're doing something great, people are like jealous about you or they're bitter about it, and they would never want to, wish you do better. But that's why I really love it. Like I guess like in London, for example, because all the Asian community is actually quite supportive of each other, and even for example, like my friend Simon, he has his own YouTube channel called Bam and Beyond, and he's Filipino. I think he's Filipino Malaysian actually.
Oh, really? Oh, I should talk to him. Cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. He's like filmmaker, producer, content creator, and like we always collaborate with each other because his idea is that you have to break into different people's culture to understand what's happening with each other, and like he would always like showcase like our work in his platform, and we'll showcase his work in our platform. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Like, go to their shows, go check out their work, share it on your Insta stories, tell your friends, all that stuff, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll grow together, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess like thank you for joining me today and
You're welcome.
telling me about your life story.
No problem. Find me on Instagram, people, at Mr. Nigel Ng, and check out my podcast that I host with the hilarious Evelyn Mock, also Asian, Rise to Meet You podcast.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.